All right, good morning, everybody. All right, so today we're going to talk about updating our ZipForms templates, right? Because remember, what is a template, right? A template is a shortcut that we have, right? So in ZipForms or in Glide, if you're some of you guys are using Glide, you can create templates, shortcuts, right? Now, some of our templates are outdated and it needs to be updated. So there's some new forms that you may need. Okay, but we're just going to focus on certain things for today. I just want to make sure that everybody has a template that they're using and it's updated. Okay. Now here's the thing: if you have a transaction, right, and you were using old forms, those will not change. That becomes historical, right? But in your template should automatically update with the current forms. You just have to double check it. Okay. And when was the last update? December 2025. Most of our forms were updated in 2025, December. Okay. Some were back in June, but most of the time it's in December 2025. Okay. All right. So let's open up our ZipForms. Okay. You guys see my ZipForms, right? Okay. Remember, you're either in templates, which is where we are, right? You can see it's highlighted here, right? Or you're in transactions, right? Templates is where we make shortcuts. Transactions is where we fill up contracts, right? Okay. So you should have a minimum of 2 or 3 templates. One is a BRBC forms, the other is residential purchase contract forms, which you can combine both of these. And then another one's for listing. Okay. I don't have all the disclosures in here. I'm just going to show you 4 or 5 forms that it should have. The others are all optional, all right? And that can be done with your transaction coordinator if you have one. If you want to do your own, okay, then you need to get together with your admin and ask them, hey, what forms do I need to complete a file? Some offices have different recommendation and restrictions and also requirements. So make sure you have your current forms, right? For instance, there was a form that we used to use called the commission agreement, right? The I think it's the RLAS or something. I forget what the name is. We don't use that anymore because we don't discuss buyer commissions anymore in our listing appointment, right? Meaning we don't recommend any number, right? We always tell them that, hey, regarding the buyer commission, that's going to be determined based on the offer. Okay. So depending on what the offer is, the agent or buyer may ask for a buyer compensation to be paid by you as a seller. Okay. For today, our commission to list your house is 3%, right? Or whatever percentage you're going to charge them. And then, you know, the buyer agent will ask for their compensation. Now, if the seller asks you, "Hey, what is your compensation as a buyer agent?" If you happen to double end it, then you give your number, whatever that number is. But the buyer compensation does not appear on the listing agreement at all. Okay, so so how do you do it? Right, everything starts as a new, right? When you create new, right, it's either a purchase or template or listing, right? Remember, we're in templates. Now, this is the same process as if you're in transactions, right? Right now, we're only on templates, right? So in this case, I'm going to create a new purchase, right? I will give it a name. In this case, I'm just going to use this one that I created called BRBC. So you can call it buyer rep forms, BRBC forms, whatever you want to call it, okay? And you want to click the residential, right? Now, here's the difference here, right? Do you want to automatically apply to purchase residential transaction? All that means is that this template will be put on your purchase templates. I mean, your purchase transactions. In this case, I don't want to do that. Okay, because this is specifically just for, um, you know, when I'm showing houses. Okay, when I'm before I even write the offer. Okay, so now in there, right? You should have 3 main forms, guys. Okay, now I have some other ones in here. You guys can see different forms, right? But you should have 3 main forms. As you can see here, right, most of them have been updated in 2025, right? Now there's some other ones here. It says 1224, right? 625, right? Okay, these have all been updated, okay, to those dates. Okay, not everything is updated the same time, but the most important thing is the BRBC. Okay, and we'll see that. Now, you should start using cover sheets, guys. Okay, so when I write a BRBC, we'll look at my cover sheet, right? You can see here, right? No buyer name, no seller, right? Tell you guys to always put X's here, right? To me, that's just as default that I do. Okay, and we'll show you where that appears in different places, right? As you see, there's no buyer, there's no property, there's no purchase information, there's no escrow, Now, this is where, since it's a BRBC, you are going to be the buyer's broker. So this broker information should be filled out, right? Okay, right? You should have your information here, right? Right? So, right? So you guys should have this, right? Right. So I'm gonna hopefully you guys will complete this. Okay. So I'm not gonna go through the whole process. Okay. Well, actually, let me do this. Actually, let's do that. Okay. Right. So I would complete that. Okay. You should have your DRE number, right? Your office, right? And then your own. Okay. For phone numbers, I would always use the just one number for everything, right? Do you have a fax number, guys? Some of you guys are like, what's a fax, right? Okay. All right. There's no seller broker, right? We don't have that yet. All we have is the buyer broker, right? So as you can see, there's no title. It's not required, right, for a BRBC. All these are not required. The only thing that's required is the agent info, right? So make sure that's completed, and of course, those check boxes, right? And after that, you know, I go to my BRBC, right? Let's grab our BRBC. Now you'll see here on our BRBC, right? The agency, right? I always teach you guys to put one X on the first buyer because there's always going to be one buyer. Now, why do I do that? It's because there's always going to be one buyer, right? Now, it's up to you if you want to check the second buyer, right? But I always check the first one, right? If you don't check this, that's okay. You can do it later. But sometimes when I review contracts, people even forget to check one of these boxes. Well, why do you forget that? Right? So, as you can see, my contact info, oops, I'll come that in. Transferred, right? Okay. The company info, right? No date, no buyer name. Okay, here's the thing, right? A buyer here, right? Okay, this is buyer. Okay, so here, this is the name of the buyer, right? This is not the person, right? This is who's going to be on title, right? Okay, right? Are we clear? But usually, you can put a person's name. Now, if Google's going to buy something, you have to figure out. You can put Google here, right, or Alphabet, right? And or you can put a person's name. Okay, it's up to you. Okay, but is it a corporation, LLC, right? Which one is it, right? And then grants interior real estate services. Okay, representation period. Here's the big change in December. The 90 days. You guys see 90 days here, right? So now it's no longer 3 months. It's 90 days. So make sure you guys understand that your dates have to be within 90 days. If you have 91 days in here, it's a voidable contract. So you need to count. Okay. Like next month, there's 31 days in May. So you got to make sure you account for that extra day. You can't just say, from today, right? 4/15, I add 3 months. That's seven, is that seven? 7/15? No. May has one. And then July will have is how many days are there in June?
31.
Is it 31? Right. So let's double check, right? Okay.
I
Uh,
know a cheat code. I know a cheat code
right.
you could do.
Yeah, with your hand,
You
right?
could
So okay.
you could just
So
ask ChatGPT.
June has 30, right? Right. And July has 31. So again,
June is
that's
30,
where
yeah.
you have to use your knuckles. Some of you guys know about the knuckle trick, right? Okay. So in May, we know there's 31. So technically, this should not be um, you know, uh 7/15. This actually should be what? What's the date? What should I put? 13 or 14? Zoom world. What's 60 days from 4/15?
415.
Yeah, plus
414.
14.
huh?
714. 714.
14.
14, right?
Yeah.
Because there's 31 days in May, right? Okay, remember, 415 is day 0. 416 is day 1. So now we count how many days. When does it end, right? Okay. So this should be the 14th, right? Right? I mean, if you want to be safe, you put 13, right? So just in case, right? But don't go, just add 3 months. Okay, don't add just 3 months. You got to count. Okay,
So
right?
Greg,
Yes.
so if you sign in the contract today, you
Mm.
start counting from tomorrow?
It's whenever this valid date is. So if your contract's, remember, it's not when it's signed, right? It's valid whatever date you put in here. Because if you put it started last weekend and they only sign it today, when does it start? It started last week because that's the date that you put in there. So usually you would update this. Okay. Right. So it doesn't start when it's signed. It starts when this date's okay. Right. Whatever date this says. Got it? You can have post dated,
No,
but
I
usually
mean, Greg,
yeah.
what am I meaning? Uh,
Okay. The
if you
start
put
date.
today's date,
Yeah.
the
The start
the
date.
actual 90 days starts today or tomorrow?
Start date is always day 0.
Okay.
Day of signing is always day 0. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, unless your date on a contract started somewhere else, right? Like you started the date something else. It's not when it's signed, right?
Yeah, Greg,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I think, but this is a little bit different. In the contract, day 0 is the day that you sign the contract. But in here, it has a beginning date. If you look
Correct.
at 1A,
Yes.
so it is
Correct.
90 days from that date.
Yes, correct. And that's
Okay.
what I said, right? If you sent this to your client last week and you only sent it today, okay? The clock started from last week because it began last week, right? But it became valid today. Today is not day 0. Today is day 5 of the contract. Got it, Carolyn? Right? So if you have something like this beginning, right? Now, when you come to the contract, like date of acceptance, well, it's when it's accepted, right? There is no beginning or end date, right? So again, know what you're talking about. When you say dates, when does it start? What does the contract say? What date are you talking about? Right? Date of acceptance, date of validity, beginning of the contract, right? Beginning of contingencies. Yeah, it depends, right? So again, with the RPA, everything starts from the date of the contract or date of acceptance. In here, it starts when the beginning, okay, and it ends when it says ending, okay, right? Because if your client signs it a week later, you don't start counting a week from now, right? The calendar has already started because it took them a while to sign it. All right, okay. What I want you guys to do, besides completing your template, is put an check on the exclusive here. I would always want you guys to use exclusive, okay? And know what the difference is. Read paragraph 15, right? Okay, but understand what exclusive means. We've talked about that before. Property
Yep. Yep.
type,
I know why, Greg. It's
yeah,
like exclusive means you're married.
yep, there you go. Okay, all right. Okay, location. Always have a county or a city, in my opinion. Okay, If you don't put anything here, a city or a county, or a zip code, or on here additional description, a property address, it becomes a voidable contract because you can't say, oh, you've hired me for everything in California. So the way we teach you guys, you should have at least a county or a city or a zip code. Okay? All right. Now there is this other form called the BIPP. This is where the buyer's preference of other descriptions of a property is. Look it up and see what it is. We don't really use it, but you may want to look up this BIPP form. Okay. So again, always have a city or county. Right. At the very least, I'm always going to check the county because that's who they're going to hire me for. Right. And it's up to you if you want to put different counties already, but I would always check the box county. Okay. So exclusive. And then your percentage. How much are you going to get paid, right? I teach you guys to put a number that you think you're comfortable with, right? I put 3, right? And then where it says here the continuation period, you should always have here 90 days, okay? Some of you guys put 30 or less, but you should have a certain number of period of continuation. What this means is if I did some work for Saeed for a couple of properties, and our contract expires because it's 90 days, right? I want to reserve the right to get paid for the properties that I did some work for Saeed. Like I showed it to him, we discussed offering, made offers, got rejected or something. Okay. So for the next 90 days, I'm reserving the right to get paid. I have to give him a list. I have to give a list to Saeed of these properties, right? It's called the NBIP form. NBIP form. Okay. I give him that list and say, hey, Saeed, if you ever buy any of these properties, please tell your agent that I need to be the buyer agent. He needs to give that to his new buyer agent. And then that buyer agent needs to know that, hey, these properties, Saeed is already working with Greg on it. He's not going to get paid if Saeed decides to buy one of those properties. Okay. If Saeed gives that form to, let's say, to Vikas, and Vikas writes the offer and he gets paid, I can still collect from Saeed, not from Vikas, because the contract's between the brokerage and the buyer. Okay. Clear, Saeed?
It's clear. But so the question is this NBIP form, is it in the templates?
It can be. You should be in your templates. This BIPP form, right? And the NBIP, and we'll show you what that looks like. Okay.
Okay. That's the first time that I'm hearing this.
Yeah, because most of us have not read past this, right?
No.
Right. Here. If you're on page 2 here, it says NBIP. You see where I'm circling? C2, right in the middle. C2.
C2. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Sure.
See it?
Yeah.
NBIP.
Yes.
Right. That's where it is, right? Okay. Yeah. Right.
And we don't pay attention because we think that we will be able to get our buyers the house before this expires.
Yes, that's right. Right, that's right. Okay. After that, there's really nothing else. Remember those check boxes earlier, right? Those green. Green is for buyer. Red is for seller, right? Okay. All right. After that, that's really the most that I want you guys to really put in. You need to put in exclusive, right? County, your percentage, and the 90 days. Those are the minimum. Besides having the dates, okay? Always have a beginning and end. All contracts has a beginning and end. All right, guys. After that, you have your cover sheet and you have your BRBC. Okay, let me look at the chat real quick. Okay, all right. Okay. So now let's look at all the other forms, right? Okay, so let me hit save. Yeah. All right. Now these are the forms that I have right now, right? Okay. As you can see, I don't have NBIP or the BIPP in here, right? I deleted it just to show you. You should have minimum these forms, okay? You guys can take a picture of this or watch this video later. You have the cover sheet, you have the BRBC. Some of us have used the PSRA. I don't suggest it because the PSRA limits you to 30 days to 3 properties, right? The buyer rep can be 90 days multiple properties, right? And you can make it exclusive. What is the difference between exclusive on the BRBC or non-exclusive? Remember, both of them are non-exclusive. Okay, BRBC, PSRA are both non-exclusive. The BRBC has an opportunity to become exclusive. What does that mean? Okay, what that means is you can have multiple agents. If it's exclusive, you cannot have overlap. Okay, so on the BRBC, if it's non-exclusive, you can hire Syed can hire me and Carolyn and Sabari, for Fremont. It's like whoever finds me this house in Fremont gets paid, right? You can do it. It's like an open, it's an open dating. It's like your open date, right? You're dating, and like whoever gives me the ring first, I'll marry, right? Okay. If it's exclusive, Sayed cannot hire the three of us for Fremont, right? We have to be looking for different types of properties. So you can have Fremont for one person, Union City for the other, Newark for the other, Cupertino for another agent. You can have multiple agents as long as there's no overlap. Does that make sense? So that way there's no race on whoever finds me the house in the same location. It's whoever finds me in different areas. Okay? So you can have multiple, as long as everybody knows, hey, I'm dating exclusively here. I'm dating exclusively here. I'm dating exclusively here. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. If
Yeah,
not, I'll answer. I'll have a more analogy at the end. Okay. All
it's
right.
not it's a not a monogamous relationship.
That the question is it is there full transparency? Right. Okay. Yeah. When you're doing multiple, there's no monogamy, right? So, all right. Okay. All right. So how do we get the BIPP, right? So we have to go here where it's on the right, right? It says all forms, right? We know the shortcut, right? BIPP, right? So the buyer identification of preferences, right? Right. So that's that one. And then we know the other one's called NBIP, right? Just like I know these shortcuts, you guys should get these numbers too, right? Or these shortcuts, okay? All right, so let me close that out. Okay, so let's look at those forms, okay? Okay. Okay. So again, it's up to you. This is just, it tells you, hey, I want these type of property. I want the property to have these features, okay? That's all this is, okay? All right, so hopefully you guys will review that. And then the other one, okay? The NBIP, okay? It's a simple form, right? This is basically how it says, right? You fill in this information up here, right? I'm going to leave it up to you guys how to fill that out. So that should be pretty easy. And then here's the list of properties you're going to put in here, right? Okay. You're going to list them out. So that way everybody knows, that you're reserving to get paid, right? It says here how to notify the new broker. Okay. Right. Okay. So again, the buyer must sign this. Okay. Got it? Okay. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys to review this later. Okay. So any questions on the BRBC or anything like that? And then let's now get to the RPA. Okay. We're good? All right.
Greg, after this, I need to go to another appointment, so I apologize, and I catch
Sure.
with you later.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Just you can watch the recording another time. Okay. All right.
Sure.
So let's look at the templates on the purchase, right? On the purchase, again, cover sheet, right? Now on the cover sheet here, it's going to be a little different, right? There's the X, right? That I've told you guys before. Okay. There's no property, there's no buyer, right? Now, why do I have escrow here? Because most of the time, more than 50% of the time, I recommend Fidelity National Title, right? Now, I can always change it on the RPA, right? Now, you can see here the buyer broker. Because when I write an offer, I'm always the buyer broker, right? So that's completed. I don't have to retype that every single time, right? No seller, no lender, there is that title. You guys, title and escrow is the same. The NHD and the home warranty, right? That's my cover sheet. Okay, very simple, right? The most important thing is this part here, the buyer broker. A lot of people, it's like, why do you have to retype this every time you write an offer? You don't have to if you're using templates and you use a cover sheet. Okay. Let me show you the RPA. Because I did the cover sheet, you'll notice on my RPA, okay, a lot of it is pre-filled already. My company info has already transferred, the agent info. Now I teach you guys to put an X on the first buyer, just like on the BRBC, right? If you notice on the RPA now, right, there's no information on the top. This is to be filled out in transactions, right? I teach you guys to put an X on the agency on the left-hand side already, the 4X, right? That means single agency. Another company represents the buyer, another company represents seller. I represent the buyer already in Taro. My information is there. Once I write an offer in transactions, that's when I'll fill in this other part. Okay? You can see here, I teach you guys to put 30 days as a normal close of escrow. It's 30 days, right? Okay. I teach you guys to put 1 business day for your EMD if the buyer can perform, right? It makes your offer stronger, okay? Now what else? On the first page, that's pretty much it on the first page is 1 and 30 days and then the agency part, okay? On the second page, right? I want you guys to put, seller payment to compensate buyer broker. Already put your percentage that you're asking for, okay? That's standard. So if in case I forget, I already have that because I want to make sure I get paid. Okay, now this number cannot be greater than your BRBC. So if your BRBC is not 3%, you need to make sure this is the same. Because if there's some discrepancy, you're going to get the lower number. Okay, all right. So, so if your BRBC is like higher and you put something lower here, you're going to get the lower. If your BRBC is lower and you put something higher here, you're going to get the lower number in your BRBC. Okay? So whatever the lower number is, that's what you're going to get. So make sure it's the same and it's on the high side. Okay? All right? Nothing else here except this fully underwritten pre-approval. I always want you guys to have a fully underwritten approval. If not, it's going to at least be a pre-approval. I don't remember when was the last time I wrote an offer where there's a pre-qual. Most of the time, it's a pre-approval or a fully underwritten approval. Okay? And you're going to attach all these documents. Okay? So simple enough. I've taught you guys to put these number of days, 10, 7, 7, right? Leave this at 17, then 7, 7, 7, minimum, right? Now, I can always change this depending on how I want the offer to be stronger. Because if later on I put no loan contingency, right, you can see the 10 disappears, right? Now, I will only do the changes in transactions, not templates, okay? Now, some of the forms you guys are going to need to know is this CR form, the contingency removal form, okay, CRB. Make sure you guys download that. And also this COP form. This is when a buyer has a house to sell, okay? You say L9, right? Sale of buyer's property. Get familiar with that form, okay? Everything else, right? I want you guys to put 1 on letter N, right? Do not leave it at 7. Specifically, you want the seller to perform on these sooner than later, okay? Right. So, see, when someone when an agent asks me, Greg, can you review my contract? I look for these. If I see these are different, I ask them, how come they're different from my templates? Oh, I'm not using a template. It's most of the time it's their answer. Because when I see one here, I know they're using my template, the one at least I teach in the class. Okay, so you guys should be using templates because that way you don't have to rethink. Oh, did I?
Yeah.
What do I need to complete? Right?
Yeah, Greg. Honestly, from hearing you and what you're showing me,
Yeah.
I don't see why you wouldn't use a template.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Again, make sure life you so that way you don't have to think about it too much. Okay. So on the third page of the contract, right? Remember, stove, dishwasher, bathroom mirrors are already pre-checked. Those 3 should be already be done. The others will depend on your offer, right? But at the very least, stove, dishwasher, and bathroom mirrors. Already checked on your templates, right? On Q, right? You guys see this. Natural hazard paid by seller, right? Enviro, right? So then, of course, disclosure source, right? Just like it shows here. Smoke alarms, right? Paid by seller. Escrow fee, owner title, right? Buyer, city transfer, county transfer, seller, right? Split 50-50. Okay. Again, there's a class where we teach you guys how to complete this step by step, both on the academy and also on our previous recording. Okay. You guys should read the contract at least once a week as a new agent, once a month as you're moving through your career. Right. I will probably read the contract, yeah, at least once a quarter, if not more. Right. Every so often I'll just pick it up and kind of review it. Right. Again, it builds your muscle memory. Right. Right? Like when Sayed asked, when Sayed earlier said, "Oh, I didn't know about that form." See, sometimes we don't go past the first couple of pages, right? How many of you guys have read this word for word each page, right? It's kind of like my email, right? I always tease you guys. You guys don't, you guys look at the headline and that's it, or you go to the first page and that's it, or scroll down the second or third page, right? You guys know who you are, right? Or it's like, oh, I didn't know it was on the attachments. I didn't know there were clickable, links. Guys, look through that email, read it. Okay, there's a lot
Yeah,
of
there's good
resources in
information
it.
on there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So just look at this, use it as a template, and then when you write your offer, all you're going to really need, right? When you write an offer, guys, is buyer names. How do they want their names to appear in title? What's the property information, right? Address, APN, and things like that. And purchase information, purchase price, loan amount, EMD, right? Their financing. That's all you really need. And step 4, all you're looking for is completeness. Any other closing costs that I need, anything I need to adjust, right? Things like that. Is there HOA, right? Like here on Q12, 13, and 14, is there an HOA, right? Then just click here. Just put seller. When in doubt, have the other party pay it. But there's a on your buyer seller guide from the title company and also the interior one, there's a guide to closing costs. Remember, that's just a guide. All closing costs are fully negotiable, right? Okay. Now it's just looking for completeness. So once you have your templates completed properly, all you need is buyer names, property information, purchase information, and then looking for completeness. That's all you really need. All this is already pre-filled, right? So pretty much, after the home warranty, other terms, right? You can just add different things in there, right? If you want, you know, like buyer agent to receive Ferrari in the garage, right? You can add that, right? Okay. So after that, everything else is about explanations. Okay, guys. So I'm not gonna go through it. I'm gonna leave it up to you guys to read all that, right? So I'm just gonna save this. Okay. All right. So if you want to see what's on my templates, right? The main thing is, right, it's the cover sheet and the purchase agreement. All these others, the BRBC, PSRA, right? So you can see I've combined them on this template, the BRBC, okay? But you can have a separate one, like I said. But for me, I put it all together. Again, it's up to you what's your organization? What are you doing, right? Okay, so I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. If you guys want to see what's on mine, right? It's right there, cover sheet, right? It's up to you. As you can see, I don't have disclosures on here because I have a TC that I use. She takes care of all of the disclosures, right? I don't need to put it on my templates. Okay. She has her own and she pulls it up. Okay. Now, questions on the RPA completing it? We're good? All right. So now let's look at the next one, okay? Which is the listing contract. Easiest contract. Okay. Again, go to cover sheet. Yeah. See, I use the cover sheet. I teach you guys to use that. It makes your life a lot easier, right? Yeah. Again, there's those X, no property information, right? No escrow, because when I take a listing, you don't really have that. In this case, since I am the listing agent, seller broker, this side is completed, the second part. Earlier, it was the buyer broker. Now it's the seller broker information. Again, same information, right? I don't have to retype this every single time I take a listing, right? Because that's done. After that, there's really nothing else to complete, okay? Now, on the listing agreement, I'll show you that, okay? Okay. On the agency, you can see my agent info has transferred. This time, I want you guys to check the first seller, one seller at a time, right? There's always going to be one seller. So again, that's just one little X that I don't have to do later because I know there's always one seller. If there's a second one, I'll just check that box, right? In here, there's only a couple things you need to put, okay? Nothing up here except Intero has already transferred. Maximum 24 months, okay? So if you're using the old forms, there was no limit, okay? Okay, so now you can see there's 24 months, okay? If it's a mobile home or probate, there's an addendum you need, these car forms, okay? So again, you can use this for any single unit, condo, townhouse, mobile home, right? Always put your commission already up here, what you're wanting to get paid. And again, the continuation period, I want it for 6 months, 180 days. That's what I teach you guys. It's up to you if you want to lessen that, okay? But to me, it's the same number as my listing, which is 6 months typically, okay? Now you can see here on the next line here, seller's obligation to pay previous broker. Remember, if a listing has expired, the previous broker could reserve the right to get paid. This is where the seller now tells you, hey, on these on these buyers, if these buyers come back, my previous agent is going to be my listing agent. Okay, because those buyers came through their activities. Okay, are we clear? So make sure you understand what this means. Okay, which means that you have to read the rest of the form. Okay, there's 7 pages to this form. Don't just read the first and second pages. Okay, all right. Letter D talks about what's items included or excluded. Make sure you know what's included, what's paid for, what's being leased, what has payments, so that way you can disclose it and have the buyer accept it. And then the rest is just a matter of the MLS information. Okay, there's really nothing else here. Okay, this is just talks about any inspections the seller wants. Okay, remember this Intero form ARLA. We don't use that anymore, so take that out. Okay, we don't use that form anymore. So after that, you're done. Okay, lock boxes, signs are automatic. Seller can opt out. But again, what am I checking? NHD is automatic, right? Sometimes before the appointment, I will check, past structural, right? General property inspection, the prelim, and also the roof. Sometimes I'll check that, but I'll do that at the appointment. Okay. When you go on the listing appointment, a buyer appointment, you should always have a printed forms. You always print all the contracts, listing agreement, BRBC, and the purchase agreement. Always go with a printed copy, and they can always sign it online. Okay. So after that, guys, the only thing, like I said, the most important thing is the 3%, the 180 days, right? Everything else can be optional. Oops. Okay. So again, please read the entire agreement and come back with questions. Okay. Like I said, there's other training videos where we broke this down, but for the most part, you just got to read it several times and understand it for your own self. Okay. So after that, that's pretty much it. Okay. Completing this should be pretty easy, right? You should have those templates done, right? If you don't have those templates, guys, your life is going to be a lot harder, meaning it's going to take you longer. It takes me less than 5 minutes to write an offer, definitely less to do a BRBC or the listing agreement, right? Because familiarity becomes easy, right? As the more times you use it. when you have templates, it makes your life a lot easier. Okay, so create your templates if you haven't yet. And if you have created your templates, double check it, make sure it's up to date by looking at those, just logging in. Once you log in, it will update your templates with the new forms. But you just have to just double check it. Okay? So, questions, comments, anything I can help you guys with today? Ali?
Hey, Greg, one more question. I noticed that some of the agents that take the hard copy of the contracts and take it to the seller or buyer and they sign
Yes.
it there. What's the difference? I was a little bit confused because now some of the agents send the online, and then sign it, through the contract and internet, but
Yeah.
some of the agents do it differently. Can you
Yeah.
just explain me what's the difference, why they do like that, why the other agents do that online?
Okay. Well, we do it online because it's faster and our clients are okay with it online, right? Most of my listings, I always bring it a printed copy to the appointment because most of the time the decision is made at the appointment, right? With writing a contract, most of the time it's we've discussed it and I'm just sending the contract for them to e-sign it, right? A third of the time, maybe I'll meet them at the office and I'll have it printed, right? But most of the time, it's we were talking on the phone. Everything is done online.
Right,
Okay, it depends on the client. My older clients, I need to go with them, actually meet them, right? Sometimes I have to make a point, so I will print it out and go see them at their house or wherever we need to discuss it to, right? Have them come into the office. Yeah, you
right.
know,
So can we do that both or just one of them?
no, you can do both. You can do a mixture.
Okay,
Yeah, you can start with it. Most of my BRBC is online,
nice.
right? And then after that, it depends on where we are,
Right.
right?
Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Like most of disclosure signing is always face to face, unless they're knowledgeable. Then I have my TC just do it for digital signing. Okay.
Right. Thank
Right.
you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Great.
Yep. Yeah. Digital signing just makes speeds things up. That's all it is. But sometimes people can't read the contract online, so they want you to print it out for them. Okay, so again, it depends on the client.
Got it.
All right, anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, so hopefully you guys are using templates, right? Anybody using Glide? Right? No? Okay. Glide is like the electric vehicle, right? ZipForms is the old gas version. Now it's become hybrid, right? So it has some updates already. They're not quite the electric, right? Glide has some fancy, some good stuff, but I still like ZipForms, which is what I train on. That's what I use. I have played around with Glide. It's good. It's just up to you which one you like. Okay. We give you guys access to both. Anybody using Glide? Carolyn, have you tried Glide? Ellie? Sabari? Anyone?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some people like it better. That's okay. You can use either interface. It's like being a Windows or a Mac. One is Carolyn, did you try Glide yet?
I have, and I didn't like it because I couldn't find the forms that I wanted. So
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like when you go inside a Tesla. It's like, how do you lock the door? How do you open the door? You press here, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's familiarity, right? Like one of my aunts, right? She's buying a car. She didn't like the newer car because you have to push like some part of the door like a Tesla. If you guys have a Tesla, right, or one of you, there's no actual handle, to open the front door, right? And she didn't like that, so she said, "No, I want a 5-year-old car." So he has an actual handle. Right? Yeah, some people don't like the new and fancy stuff. That's okay. Um, do what fits how you do business. Just like Ali asked, why do some agents do digital and some do printed? Whatever works. They're both good, as long as you know that they're the one. Like digital, some people say, "Can I use the same email address for the wife and the husband?" No, they have to have separate email addresses. Okay, just like, hey, can the wife sign for the husband? Only if they have a power of attorney. Are we clear? Okay. All right. Okay. So, any more questions? Let me hit the. Questions? Anybody? Are we good?